Yay, another dead radio to repair. Gonna pull this one out, replace it with another cheap JVC unit like in the Dodge. Alright, so on the Isuzus, you clean out this pouch and you pull out the ashtray. And then you pull the ashtray out, you push this down, and come out the rest of the way. Then this front panel is just clipped on. Though pulling it out on a day like today when it's this cold is a little scary. It's better if you have some heat. So, the Isuzu Rodeo dash bezel is both a clip and a screw in affair. You've got three screws across the top, one in front of the radio, which is easy to miss, then these two above the instrument clusters, and down below you pull the screws, 4 of them out of the lower dash trim, well 5 down there, and then you just pull this down. You don't need it out, and then the cluster itself is a clip-in thing. Remember to pull all of the connectors off the back of your switches so that you don't break any wires. Alright, pulling the connectors off is proving to be basically impossible at this temperature. So I've got to start the truck, let it warm up, and let it preheat the dash. That's probably what I should have done in the beginning. You know, plastic is far more fragile when it's cold like this. So don't push your luck. Okay, so the application of heat did work. They popped right out. You don't need to remove the far side. Well, I guess you need to remove the, what is that, right? Well, you need to remove one of them. You don't need to remove the other one. I think that's somebody's alarm switch connection there. So you might not have that. But you need to remove these, and now you can get at this. So here's the radio that's going to come out. This is not the factory Isuzu Rodeo radio. This is the one that was in when we got it. It does still have a 5 CD changer in the rear, and maybe I'll be able to hook that to the back of the new JVC radio. I doubt it, but I'll look into it. I did notice that it's missing a number of screws behind the dash. It's interesting. What I've had trouble with this radio is, number one, it eats CDs. It won't spit them back out, and it tends to scratch them when they're in there. It also won't spin them up or play them, and the buttons on the faceplate aren't working, though I do notice that they're not actually buttons on the faceplate. They just push through, and they push on these little micro switches in here. But either way, it ain't working, and cramming on the buttons harder doesn't seem to fix it any. So out with the old and with the new. Yeah, I'm going to take a wild stab and say that that is probably the plug that used to go to the 5 CD changer. Maybe I should just yank that out of the truck and sell it on eBay. The wiring should be fairly simple. I'm just going to salvage the kit plug, which should make... Oh, lovely, a couple of them are cut off. Oh, they're just not hooked up. Wiring should be simple. I'm just going to salvage the kit plug rather than soldering onto the plug in the back of my radio like I did with the Dodge, which should make all the just buy a kit whiners happier. So I'll just reuse this and press on crimp terminals. So it's probably done at an audio shop. That's not typical end user splicing. It's perfectly adequate and very fast and durable. It's just not typical. So we'll just salvage and reuse. This, of course, is the antenna, and the radio did have an auxiliary in, or maybe that's subwoofer out. It's hard to tell. If you don't have this wiring schematic on your radio when you pull it out to replace it, you can probably get it online, especially if it's the factory radio. You'll be able to get it online. Otherwise, just Google the model numbers and wiring diagram. But this is all I need to hook the two of them up, and I'll just cut and splice the various wires. And basically, instead of having this plug on the end, I'll have the JVC radio plug on the end. I still can't figure out precisely what radio this is. It says it's marketed by Walmart. It doesn't have any sort of model or manufacturer that I'm familiar with, so it is Chinese, but then isn't everything. 2004, so it didn't last very long, but then, you know, in the Montana conditions, so many things fail. I think it's the cold and the roads getting hammered constantly. Cutting apart and wiring the old harness into the new harness, and this was the plug to the old radio, and this is the plug into the truck. Just further simplified by the fact that pretty much all the wires match color to color with both the old plug and the new plug. Very standardized. So provided that your radio worked properly before, then you can pretty much figure you can wire the new radio up and it will also work properly. So here the harness has been made. It didn't line up quite as nicely as I was hoping, but all the joints have been soldered and then heat shrinked, and then I'm going to bind the cable together and wrap it with electrical tape, and then I'm going to put a wire loom over it because I don't want it rattling loose and I don't want it rattling inside the dash. But now we are basically ready to put it back in the truck. It also looks to me, from a few quick measurements, that I will be able to reuse the mounting kit from one radio to the other. It might require a few drilling and relocating because the new radio sits back just a whisper farther than the old one. But yeah, I should be able to modify the brackets that were already installed in order to make it work again. There it is, ready. Let's go test the fit. Almost certainly something won't work right, but almost certainly you can make it fit with a little time and a little effort. You don't have to do everything store-bought. Alright, she works. Very crisp radio signal, much better than the old one, and I can already tell that we had some channels dead because yeah, sounds better. I hate that. You'll have to read through the instruction manuals how to get the damn demo off. But success. Just gotta put her back in now. Okay, so there it is. In order to get it to fit, I had to remove this surround bezel, which just clipped onto this particular radio, and it left. It's a little big. I prefer not to see that on that side and that side, but it's fine. And possibly I can figure out a way to trim that and get it back in. Always trim the rings. Don't ever trim your dash, because then if something goes wrong, you gotta buy a new dash. So it works. Auto dims when I turn the lights on. Everything seems to be just fine.